So I have to tell 2 stories right out of the gate. First was what happened at the Great Smoky Mountain Marriage Retreat. My wife and I were on the elevator, and normally we have our kids with us, and so we're very elevator etiquette. You know, Audie and Adam will switch pushing which button, needs to be pressed. And so we're very conscientious about, you don't press more than one button on more than one floor. Well, it was just me and my wife, and I was in a particularly silly mood. So I pressed every floor, all 7 of them, and then waited as Megan is mad the entire time, like, oh, come on, I want to get to the room. And we're stopping at each individual floor over and over again. And then we got in the elevator a little later, and I did it again because why not? We were staying on the 6th floor of 7, by the way. So then I spoke that night, and Megan decides, after we had gone to Dutch Bros and gotten some Strawberry Rebel blendeds, the only drink that matters at Dutch Brothers, I'm holding 2 cold drinks in my hand. Megan decides I'm going to do it this time. So she presses all the buttons on the elevator. Well, I have to preface this by saying she did get me, but typically it's hard to get Michael because Michael will just adapt and speak in the third person. So when it hit the 2nd floor, I just got off the elevator and pressed the button, to get the next elevator to come up. And I was just going to ride up on the other elevator because there's more than one. And Megan, I thought, would just stay on the elevator. She got off the elevator too. So now this elevator is going up by itself, stopping on each floor. And this couple rounds the corner and says, oh, we heard your lesson and we're so appreciative. Thank you so much. And I don't have the heart to tell them, we're not staying on this floor. We're only on this floor because I pranked my wife and she's pranking me back. And so I pushed the down button for them and I said, this elevator's going down. You can go ahead and get on that. Then, as luck has it, the other elevator comes back up. We're ready. And we get on that elevator. We're supposed to go up. Another couple rounds the corner and is ready to try to get on the elevator to go down when we're going up. And so I said, hey, I'm sorry, we're going up. Well, Megan has had like the giggles this entire time. And she is almost crying, laughing. And it looked like to me she was laughing at this couple. Haha, you can't get on the elevator. And so we're going up the elevator again. And I'm like, okay, truce. Neither one of us does it anymore. No more. So we're having coffee the next night with some friends. And we are telling them this story. And one of the things that I had forgotten that I had done was when we got off at the 6th floor on Friday, the second time I had done it, I did it again, going back down. I pressed all the floors. So we're sitting there telling them a story, and they go, that was you? They had gotten on the elevator and noticed they were all pressed, and there's nothing they could do about it. And so he said, like, 2 couples got on there with him, and they're like, who did this? And I said, don't tell them it was one of the speakers. Can you imagine how childish that would seem? So that's the first one that I have to tell. Yeah,
it was childish.
It was, but it was so funny. Worth it. And my wife did embarrass me, so she did a good job. She got me. Here's the second one. And then I've got one I'm saving. It was a spiritual sword lectureship here in the Chattanooga area at East Ridge. And Karen Painter had come to the lectureship as well. Love Karen. Great person. Love her family.
She is.
Great kids. Karen saw me and was like, hey, it's good to see you. And so I went to go and hug her. At the same time, I saw Stephen Aiken's mom, Beth, and wanted to say hello and hug her too. And so I tried to like course correct my wingspan to be large enough to side hug both at the same time. And in the process, I hit Karen in the face. And so, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Please forgive me. And she was laughing. She said, I'm going to tell everybody that Michael Clark hit me in the face and that he hurt me.
Well, remember the first time I met you was at the Power Lectures.
That's right.
In South Haven years ago. And Michael was a punk kid back then.
Still am.
Still is. And we're breaking for lunch, and he just walked over, looked at me, and punched me right in the gut. Didn't know me from Adam.
I have to tell you
that was
something.
my introduction.
I have to tell you something.
And it's gotten worse.
I figured out time travel, and I went back into my consciousness and hit you for every mean thing you've ever said about me. I wish that would make it a really cool story. I don't remember even hitting you. I did that to Matt Jones too, apparently. Was just sucker punching him at Jacksonville years ago. And I was a very violent child, apparently.
Calm down.
But you and misunderstanding time has become a habit. When Michael first came and talked to me about marrying my daughter, he said, well, it's going to be a year and a half. And then the day he's going to propose to her, he's down to like a year. And by the time I pillowed my head that night, it was 3 months?
Yeah.
It's like, wait a second. I agreed to a year and a half. And here he's.
There was time for me to course correct this, but not be mean.
Yeah. 3 months. But I'm running out of options here.
Do you remember the questionnaire you made me fill out to date Megan? He gives me this questionnaire, and let's be real, right? And totally transparent. I am not the type of person that you give a quiz to like that and expect that I will take it seriously. But I don't think, at least I've never asked you this, I don't think Mark thought I would do what I did. And I was just like, one of the questions was like, what is your intention of dating my daughter? And I'm like, to date her. Like, I was just being so sarcastic. And there was one question, will you commit to being an Alabama fan or something like that? And I said, I'd rather die. Like, I just wrote on the whole thing. And then Megan goes to dinner with me that night and she says, yeah, I don't think my dad gets your sense of humor because you were kind of rude on that sheet of paper. But now everyone knows me. I'm very authentic. I'm very consistent.
We know you're rude.
Yeah. It's just known. What is it? Cindy says I have rude Tourette's.
Yeah.
I should tell that story of the pyros, shouldn't I?
Yes.
Okay.
We can hold it though.
I'll hold it.
Yeah. Because Mark's ready to.
You gotta go, and then I gotta talk about the awful pie on Thanksgiving at some point.
You bring this kid to Thanksgiving, and he doesn't eat 3/4 of the things that are there
because I'm scripturally not allowed. God said no. Actually, last Thanksgiving, y'all got me sick because I overate. It was good, though.
That's the royal y'all.
You're welcome.
Y'all. Yeah.
Michelle, really. No.
What can I say except you're welcome?
Yeah. I'll tell the pie one, and then I'll let you start ripping some stories out, okay?
Okay.
This is... We've all laughed about this, and so I have no problem telling this story. But Megan and I get engaged. And so we do a kind of a trial practice run of holidays, Thanksgiving and Christmas, leading up to our wedding in January. And so I was asked by Michelle, what's your favorite pie? I said, I love chocolate pie. That's my favorite pie. And she says, I'm going to make you a chocolate pie. And I was super excited. I felt real special, My future mother-in-law is taking care of me. She's going to make my favorite pie. That's so sweet. She doesn't have to do that, So we get there, Thanksgiving, is great. The meal's great. This is pre-Crohn's, so I was able to eat a lot more and enjoy a lot more. And we get to the pie, and I'm just like, what's that meme that guy's going like this? Mm-hmm. That's me. I'm so excited. And I take a bite, and it does not taste good. It tastes like something's wrong with it. And I'm starting to panic because I'm looking around, and no one's saying anything. And I'm watching one by one as everybody kind of takes a bite and says nothing. And I think, oh no, this is how they eat pie. Whatever's done to this is normal to them. And so I was thinking, maybe I can't do this.
I will go on the record. I don't like the chocolate pie.
Yeah.
So I wasn't eating it.
Okay. So he was the only one that didn't have a piece then. Everyone else, like Monica takes a bite, says nothing. Marissa takes a bite, says nothing. Matthew, Marcus, Megan, all of them take a bite, nothing. And then finally Michelle takes a bite and says, oh, this is disgusting. What is wrong with it? Y'all spit that out. And I said, I'm so glad you said something. I was so scared. She had substituted something in the recipe, and whatever she substituted just did not work out on that occasion because Michelle's a really good cook. And if it weren't for the Crohn's disease, when I first, was spending a lot of time with y'all and eating with y'all all those dinners, there were a lot of meals that I ate that like I prefer the way that she makes it. Spaghetti, for example, mashed potatoes. Sorry, Mom, I love you, but it's pretty good. I mean, it's great. And so this was such a shock to eat this pie and be like, oh no, I can't do this anymore. So there's my stories. Here you go.
Fair game. It's open
Adam,
season
get
on
ready to
Michael.
mute him,
He opened
okay?
it.
Get ready to mute Mark. What if the rest of the episode is just Mark muted?
Oh, you would do that, wouldn't you?
I would, definitely. Cut your audio.
Oh, yeah. There's 5 kids in our family. And when Michael and Megan were the first of our kids to get married. And whenever anybody else brings somebody, it's like, okay, people, we don't talk about Michael until, okay, in the interval, they've got to meet Michael.
Yeah.
That's right.
Be ready. Be ready. And then
I come raring to go.
and then Matthew started dating Keely, who I love dearly. She is a sweet, sweet girl. And I could really see myself enjoying holidays for the rest of my life. And
Don't mess it up, Matthew.
No pressure, buddy.
yeah. And she showed up and Michael started picking a little bit and both barrels, she just unloaded immediately. It's like, yes.
It takes a special person.
She was also prepared.
Yes.
Oh.
Somebody had her ready.
Yeah.
A special person had to. And Matthew did tell me, he said, I did kind of warn her because I think that my job in the family right now, while there are still some siblings out there that have not yet found the love of their life or have not yet gotten engaged to be married to the love of their life, I think my job is to weed out the bad ones.
The weak ones.
Yes. And we have weeded out people throughout the years just in general that they don't get me. And I'm a great person. I'm electric. I mean, look at me. But I am very authentic. You will never see me be other than what I am in that moment.
Oh, I remember we actually took a mission trip to South Africa together. Megan was there for the better part of a year. Took a trip down there, visit Megan while we were there. Michelle and I and Michael flew down together. We get there and Michael and Megan just fought the whole time.
Yeah. We were about to break up. We just weren't willing to admit that.
And it was painful. And they broke up and Megan was still there for a few more months. Michael still would come to the house every day. And, we may be on a Zoom call with Megan and, let me turn this because Michael's walking into the room. It's like, okay, he's breaking up with her, but he's not breaking up with the rest of the family.
Yeah.
And she came back and it was 3-4 months later, they're engaged for a year and a half that turned into 3 months.
Hey, look, man, when you know, you know. And I knew on that mission trip that we probably should break up. And then when she got back, I knew we were going to get married. And now look at it, 3 kids, 2 of them lovely and beautiful and out of the womb. One of them, we don't yet know how beautiful she'll be.
Oh, I know
she'll be beautiful.
She is absolutely gorgeous.
We just haven't gotten to witness it yet, I know she will be. But it's like we know Adam is Adam. He's all right. No, both of our kids are really cute. And what Adam had posted this picture of me, my little Funko Pop version of myself, and didn't say who it was. And he was like, I'll give you $0 if you guys guess right. And Mark's comment was, I don't know, or I know who that is, and he makes awesome babies. And I was like, Mark, if they don't know that that's me, that's a weird thing to say about just some random person. Can you imagine walking up to a preacher at a gospel meeting like, you make awesome babies? Congratulations.
Well, if I would have been here for the marriage retreat, I would have walked up to one of the speakers and said, you make wonderful babies.
Yeah, me. Or I guess Joe. Joe's got some cool kids too.
He does. He does. I don't know any of David's kids.
I don't think I know any of his either.
Yeah.
I think they were mostly out of the house by the time I first was introduced to them. So, but yeah, I mean, there you go. Now you know. this little version of me on Facebook.
Right
You
on.
can find Adam and get $0.
He's out there.
What
Yeah.
other things come to your mind that you want to get off your chest?
Oh, the whole list?
Just remember, I've
Just
got
mute
Gary
Michael's
Massey on retainer.
Yeah, mute Michael's microphone for the rest of the time. Wayne and I can go at it. Oh, and I've been in broadcasting now for 20 years. And part of that, we've had so many different people that our kids have gotten to interact with. And they're really are jokesters at times. And if you ever met Hardiman Nichols, just as put together of a person as you'd ever want to meet, always dressed impeccably. Just his whole demeanor was gentlemanly. And I that's probably the best way to describe him. And one time after he spoke at Fort Worth Lectures, Matthew, who was maybe 5 years old at the time, walks up to him and says, "Brother Hardiman, that was the best lesson I've ever heard anybody give with their fly open." And Hardiman just turned around, faced the wall to check his fly and came back around. And, "Oh, Matthew, I'm going to get you."
That's good.
And later that same lectureship, he was on the open forum. And Matthew, he and Hardiman just absolutely clicked. Thought of him like his own grandfather. And after the open forum, he ran up to the front. He said, "Oh, Brother Hardiman, you did an excellent, excellent job answering those questions. I'm very proud of you." And Hardiman, being the gentleman that he was, he kind of bent over to talk to Matthew, and he said, "Well, Matthew, I'm looking forward to the day when I can sit in the audience and hear you be the one answering the questions in the open forum." He said, "That'll be a great day in my mind." And Matthew looked at him and he said, "Brother Hardiman, by the time I'm that old, you'll be dead." And just a few weeks later at the Fort Worth lecture, at the Freed Hardiman lectures, Hardiman was giving one of the keynote lessons. And we're sitting, Virginia, his wife was sitting there with us. Matthew was sitting on my lap. And Hardiman starts to tell that story, which had just happened a few weeks earlier. And he thought it was incredibly funny. Matthew got embarrassed and he actually climbed behind Virginia to try and hide.
Wow.
While Hardiman's telling that great story.
Matthew's a character, man. He's funnier than he gives himself credit for.
He is.
Yeah.
And the older preachers all just absolutely loved him. Maxie Bourne was another who just adored Matthew. In fact, when we were leaving the Brown Trail congregation, all of our kids, all 5 of them, their names start with the letter M. And Maxie had occasionally just, he was known to misspeak at times. And he said, they've been here for 7 years now, and I've got all their names down. Monica and Megan and Marcus and Marissa. And he didn't say anything about Matthew. And, the whole congregation knows all the kids. And afterwards, Matthew walks up to Max and he's like, "I'd like to introduce myself to you. I'm Matthew Teske, the only forgotten son."
Good stuff.
Oh,
Love it.
People say a lot that Adam looks a lot like your side of the family. And I definitely see that. And I see older pictures of Matthew and Marcus, and we'll sometimes be like, "Yeah, that looks a little bit like Adam there." And then he will just say stuff and do things, and it is the funniest stuff because those uncles know how to really egg him on and get him going. And I appreciate that because It's a hard job doing that all by yourself. You need some,
It's
need
nice
some
when
help.
somebody else jumps in.
It takes a village
Yeah.
to
To shape
initiate
and
an egg
mold.
on. That's right.
And with, Adam and Audie, to date, they've been the only grandchildren on both sides of the family.
Mm-hmm.
So they get that, the star treatment, no matter where they go. And the world revolves around them so very much.
No kidding. Used to be my mom, when we got married, she'd say, when are you and Megan coming over for dinner? We'd love to see y'all. And then we had Adam, and it was, when's Adam coming over?
Mhm.
We were just dropped out of the equation completely.
You were Uber.
Yeah. That was it. We were Uber drive. That's
Yeah.
all. And we didn't even get tipped.
Yeah.
And I will have to say, talking about your parents, that it has been amazing and a spectacular experience to co-grandparent with them. That has been just a huge blessing. I remember before Michael and Megan got married, BJ and I did the wedding ceremony. We also did the premarital counseling.
Wow.
And
I wasn't given a choice.
You agreed to
I was
that?
not given a choice. It was, if we're going to do the wedding, we have to do the counseling.
And we are doing the wedding. Therefore, sit yourself down.
You should have called me, man. I
Look, man,
hooked you up, man.
you barely answer the phone for me now.
That's a true story.
He does have a lick of sense.
Yeah, he knows a little bit.
But
Good
the
stuff.
comments from the both of them afterwards, when BJ did his part, I did my part, and they realized we didn't compare notes ahead of time. They said, "You guys are both hitting the same things, saying the same thing." It's like the whole biblical process. Both families are on the exact same page here. And I think that was, I've done a bit of premarital counseling, but I think that was incredibly effective to see, okay, we're all the cards are out here on the table. And there's nothing that the two of you can hide from all of us. But we're all, see things just the same. And I think, though it pains me to say something nice about Michael in a forum like this.
Adam, turn the volume up.
You're still muted.
It's gone well. As much as I wanted to knock his head against the wall,
Sure.
from time to time, it's been good, and they make some great babies.
But double the pressure, man, in the
Yeah, man.
counseling.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
Whew.
Especially when both of their marriages are like great and you know that they know what they're talking about, but then it's like, it's your dad.
Yeah.
It's your dad who used to make you kids freak out. Be like, come here, honey. I'm going to give you a kiss. I'm going to smooch you for a minute. And we're all like, gross, no, ew. And then he's over there trying to talk about how you're supposed to love and respect your wife. And it's like, I know he's right. And I know he knows what he's talking about. But all I'm seeing right now is that, come over here, mama. I love you. And it's just kind of like, but I can't wait to put the same stipulation on my own children. You
Well,
have
well,
got
let's-
to be counseled.
Well, let's move from marital counseling to discipline. Let's talk about discipline for
Okay.
just a moment. How about that?
I don't get spanked anymore, Wayne.
We all love fellowship meals.
Yeah.
And the thing that you worry about with fellowship meals and that you warn your own children about at a fellowship meal is not to just run up to the food and jump in line ahead of everybody else, especially ahead of the visiting preacher. Get in line eventually, but just calmly, don't overfill your plate. You're going through all the things, And, well, what if you're the visiting preacher and you're going through the line first? You've been told to go through the line first.
That makes me so uncomfortable. My mama taught me better than that.
It's so hard.
Look,
It is.
as a guy with Crohn's disease, I have to go first.
You go.
Even in local work, it was understood.
I'm taking the front of the line.
You're going first, because otherwise, there was one time I didn't go first. Everything was gone that I could have. It was all just salad and vegetables. And I was like, I went to McDonald's. So going first for me, I've gotten used to it. But before that happened, I didn't like being front of the line. It is always awkward. So this is what, visiting preachers, front of the line.
Visiting preacher, front of the line. But there's a little switch. So grandparent was watching their child and had already warned, don't run up there. Let the visiting family go. And she turned around for a moment. We are the visiting family going through the front of the line with my kids right behind me in tow. And she comes at a run, and all of a sudden, one of my youngins is getting tore up.
By a random lady?
By a random lady at that time.
Oh.
And the look on his face, and you can then the look on her face when he turns around. That's not my grandchild. It wasn't even my child, but it's not my grandchild that I was supposed to be in charge of. He's over there going, He's like, oh, look at you, Granny.
Oh.
That's good stuff.
Was she going like, we do not?
To this day, she still brings it up every time we see her. It's hilarious. And we were good friends with, her children, and grandkids and stuff like that. They all grew up together, going to Bible camp together.
Yeah.
So it was hilarious. I'm sure my son needed it.
Yeah. Just tell him, that's for something you didn't tell us about.
That's for later, I'm sure. There's something coming out. Yeah, we're going to find out. You probably, put him up to it earlier or something, But anyway, good stuff.
We dealt with that with local work with Ryan and Rebecca with natural consequences was what they called it. Liliana was maybe 2, maybe 3. She's standing on the little chair on McDonald's and she's twirling herself around. She fell and got hit pretty good. And in the moment, I remember thinking, like, we're not parents yet. I don't think Megan was pregnant at the time with Adam. And so I thought, we're going to get some like real life on the job training right in front of us. And I'm going to get to see this dad, and how he acts as a dad. He's probably going to scoop her up and it's okay. And you're going to be all right. Then Ryan just goes, it's kind of what you get, isn't it? I was like, whoa. And he said, look, we told you to not be twirling. And I hadn't heard that part because we were in there ordering. They had been telling her not to twirl. And so she continued to twirl. And he says, that's called natural consequences. Mm-hmm. And he said, sometimes, talking to me later, he said, sometimes natural consequences can be just as effective as a spanking because they got hurt for doing something they shouldn't have been doing. Yeah. And you explain, I hate that you're hurt, but that wouldn't have happened had you not done this. And so the first time Adam did something within the last year or so, and I said, that's kind of like natural consequences. He looked mortified that I'd said that. And I said, if you hadn't done what you just did, would you be hurt right now? No, sir. I'm like, so there you go. That's your punishment. Natural consequences. There you go. But I've never had somebody come over. I have had years ago. I was somewhere watching TV. I was at this preacher's dinner. And it was boring for a young kid. It was at a house where they didn't have young children anymore. So they didn't have toys or stuff for young kids to enjoy. And I'm trying to watch TV, and I didn't think I had it very loud. And this sweet lady who's since passed on came into the room and cranked the dial of the volume. That's what kind of TV it was. Cranked the dial down and said, we're in here having a conversation. You need to be quieter. And walked back in. And I was like, whoa, I didn't realize I was being so loud. So then I tried to turn the volume back up a little bit. Another person comes in, turns the volume back down. We're having a conversation in here. You need to be quieter. And so I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? I don't want to hear all these stories of these preachers and all this kind of stuff. And now here we are. Yeah, doing a podcast where that's what we do because that's what they were telling, but they weren't interested in me then. The other time that happened to me was I went somewhere. It was so boring. I actually turned on the All-Star game and I enjoyed baseball for once. That's how bored I was. Baseball was enjoyable. It takes a lot, Wayne.
Easy.
A lot. The Braves were playing in that game too. They had several players.
Sure.
And I remember thinking, wow, I didn't even know the Braves were any good.
Oh, Michael. And the difference...
We've already muted you too.
That's right.
Yeah.
I've been muted since 20 minutes ago.
God is merciful. So is Adam. But the difference between a parent and a grandparent, the Papa's way of dealing with that is, okay, I'm not going to sit here and tell you don't twirl. I'm going to say, ooh, Papa wants to show you something. And just redirect her. Like, do they need to learn those lessons? Absolutely. But guess what? That's Daddy's job.
Yeah.
On your watch, not mine.
Yep. Yeah. And those occasional times happen when Papa has to raise his voice a little bit. Cue the waterworks.
Mm.
And it's like,
Yours?
no. When I see those, it
That's
gets
later.
me. Yeah. It's like, oh.
Papa doesn't like to talk like that.
I'm there.
Oh, that is tough. That is tough.
Do you have any other stories you want to tell?
Oh, plenty of stories. Fit for television. Some of the funniest
We got
things.
that 10-second delay button, Adam.
Some of the funniest things actually happen when they're not supposed to.
Oh, yeah.
And funerals are one of those things that sometimes going through the process, even at the time it may not be funny, but you look back at it and you say that was a hoot. There was one time, the funeral was about an hour away from where we were. And when I was preaching in Kentucky, the fellow who owned the funeral home, good friend, we worked together a lot. We had a lot of funerals in that congregation during that period of time. And we had this burial about an hour away. And he called me beforehand. He said, hey, we're going out there. Rather than bringing one of the other guys, could you help me seal the vault afterwards? And then, we'll go grab lunch on the way home. And it's like, I can do this. This is no big deal. And do the graveside ceremony. And the family's like, oh, come out to eat with us. It's like, oh, I've got some plans I need to take care of. And they're real insistent. Oh, and you have to come out and eat. You have to eat with us. It's like, oh, I really have some other things I need to do. Mm-hmm. And, well, what is it? Well, I got to help seal the grave. And the response is, oh, that's awesome. I always wanted to see them do that. So suddenly, here I am, a novice. The funeral director had hurt his back, and we're having to put the vault around the casket. And the guys, from the cemetery, they're lowering the top of the vault on, and it doesn't set right. And so the funeral director says, hey, you want to put on, I got some Tyvek coveralls in there. We need to shift that just a little bit and get the straps out. So here I am with this audience with the Tyvek coveralls on, climbing in on top of the vault, getting beside, trying to get it straight, get the straps out. With an audience like, oh, this is so neat. And then have to go out to eat with them.
Did you wash your hands?
Once or twice. But the funeral director
were they fascinated by it?
They were fascinated by it. And it's like, this is not what you typically think of a preacher doing a funeral.
True. Have I ever told y'all about the time I stole donuts from a grieving family? It was last week. No, I was probably a few years older than Adam, my son. Adam.
Who's old enough to know better?
Yeah, 7 years old. I was probably 10, so I definitely knew better.
Mm-hmm.
But you go to these funerals, right? And again, as a kid, funeral homes are not thinking about children and trying to keep them in. There's no play place, There's no ball pit where you can go and have fun. billion-dollar idea, though. Someone should do that, because how many funerals did you take your boys to where they were just like, Dad, please, I'd rather be the guy in the casket at this point, because there's nothing to do for the kids. And so I used to just go and explore and do whatever I wanted. And
funeral homes are not places to go exploring.
Right. And so I would go and check all the doors. And if it was locked,
Sure you did.
I would, get out my pick set, and if it was locked, I'd move on to the next door. Well, some of these funeral homes, they've got, they're a lot bigger. And so they've got nicer areas where there's like a grief room. I don't know what it is actually called, but that's the best I can describe it as. And it's for the family. And the funeral home puts items of food in there for this family. It would be bad enough if I had taken from the funeral that we were there for. I walk into this grief room and see these boxes of donuts and snacks and drinks and things. And I sit down and have like 5 or 6 donuts. No one's coming in at this point. I don't know why, but I had a ton of the donuts and popped open a can of Dr. Pepper and drank it. I was having a ball. And I thought, this is what funerals have been missing. This is the room that kids need. If you're going to run a funeral home, that's like, is it every funeral been like this? And I just didn't know. And who didn't tell me? And so as I'm walking out, I noticed there's this little placard on the wall. And it says something along the lines of provided for the family of. And it dawns on me, oh, this is not just some free-for-all. Because sometimes the funeral homes, I don't drink coffee much, but I would drink coffee at funeral homes because they'd have a coffee area where you could go and do that. That's kind of what I just assumed it was. And I thought, man, this is like the Chick-fil-A of funeral homes. They get it. They understand. And so I felt so bad, and I never said anything. But I imagine, because when I opened the donut boxes to see what they had, none of them have been eaten yet. I imagine that that family had to walk in there and be like, Goldilocks and the 3 bears. Somebody's been eating our grief donuts.
We have a surprise for you today.
They're here right now.
We have brought that family. Survivors of that family are here.
I've always been scared about that. You want to talk about that? Okay. But I've always been scared that like they will find me one day and be like, we know what you did. You owe us $32.50.
And even before somebody dies, I remember when I was in local work, typically what I would do Sunday evenings after our evening worship, I would make my rounds at the hospital. And we went through a period, we had like 7 members in the hospital at the same time. And fairly significant illnesses. My in-laws were in visiting, and my father-in-law, a preacher, one of his favorite things to do is hospital visits. He said, oh, you're going to make hospital visits. I'll go too. And there was one fellow who was in, Richard, who he and I got real close. And we would just sit, I've got all these visits to make. I always put Richard last, and we would just sit for sometimes 45 minutes, an hour, and just chat like 2 old friends. I got more out of that than anything, and make all our visits. And we finally get to Richard's room, and his lungs were going. His son-in-law was there. My father-in-law is with me. My father-in-law he can't hear thunder. And Richard's son-in-law can't hear thunder. Richard, his hearing was fine. And so I walk in, hey, Richard, how are you tonight? And his son-in-law is there. Who said, what? Just asking Richard how he was, and interrupted Richard as he was responding. So I was asking how he is tonight. And the son-in-law goes over, he wants to know if you're okay. And Richard responds, and my father-in-law What he said, what? And these two, and it just reminded me of this old Saturday Night Live skit, for the hearing impaired.
Yep.
In tonight's news. In tonight's news. And they're going back and forth. And Richard, his oxygen's on maximum. And I see him laying there. He's cracking up. I'm cracking up. And the two of them are pretty much yelling at each other, trying to communicate. And it was a funny, funny scene. And finally, after a few minutes of this, I said, hey, buddy, how about I'll come back, see you in the morning? And he just gave me a thumbs up because there was no sense trying to communicate verbally. And about 4:00 the next morning, he passed away.
Mm-hmm.
I'm convinced that he thought back on that night before and laughed himself to death.
Or someone shouted at him to death.
It was so, and I mean, he was having a hard time catching his breath.
Yeah.
While we were there. But I that's one of the things when I get to heaven, I'd like to sit down with Richard and say,
That's
hey,
funny.
what happened? What happened?
How'd you go out, man? I gotta know.
and just one of those people that in the little bit of time we got to spend together, so incredibly precious. I mean, that's one of the joys of preaching.
Yeah.
You get paid to study your Bible. You get to pay to visit with people like that.
Yeah.
It's a great, great life.
Absolutely. Well, I have something I'd like to do before we leave, and I'm going to ask if, let's see, Audie Lynn, would you come here? You come sit with Pop?
Hey, sweetheart.
Can Daddy read a book to you and Pop? Does that sound good? Wayne, this is for you too.
Yeah,
but
sure.
I'm going to look over here. This book is entitled Dinosaurs and Trucks because, hey, why not? Oh, this book's for Stella McBrayer. We can't read it. Oh, that's unfortunate. Well, moving on. No, it really is for Stella, but who cares? Okay, here we go. Ready? You like dinosaurs? Of course you do. Dinosaurs are terrific. I like them too. You also like trucks and watching them go. Vroom. Dinos never had trucks, as far as we know. I'm pretty sure we know for sure. That's why I bought this, because I read that. I read that. I was like, I'm pretty positive we got that figured out. However, we can change that right now. Have they not seen Jurassic Park? So here's what we do. We say, hey, Stego and Max, here's a tow truck for you. And they reply, ooh. And this one's for Bronto, a delivery van, which Terry will land on whenever she can. And Terry says, wee. Azul and Big Mike have a pickup in mind. Little Vern wants to ride in the trailer behind. And the rest of the dinos get a dinosaur dome so they can smile and wave wherever they roam. Goodbye, dinosaurs. Come back soon.
That's great.
I'd like to gift this to you.
Thank you, buddy.
I love you so much, man. Appreciate you.
He will
Audie,
do something very special with that, I'm sure.
Would you like to say anything to the people watching and listening?
No. Can
you tell them, oh, I got it ready? Raise your hand if you're a stinky pinky. I'm a stinky pinky. Are you a stinky pinky? Yeah, raise your hand. Raise your hand if you are a silly lily. You say no. Raise your hand if you have a smelly belly. No.
How about this one? Raise your hand if you're Papa's girl.
Who's Papa's girl?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Are you a big sister? You excited? Do you know what your sissy's name is? Can you say into the microphone? What's her name? You don't know it, do you?
No, I do.
Olivia, yeah. Well, thank you for sitting with us for a few minutes and let me read to you. We're going to say bye-bye now, okay? Can you wave to the camera? Say bye. Right over here. See it right there?
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See y'all next time.
Bye-bye.